Beth Samberg, I'm so excited to talk with you today on our podcast, Be the Solution. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I have a special quote for you today, Beth. Whether you think you can or think you can't, either way, you are right.
Truth.
Truth, right? Special quote. So, with that being said, it's basically where there is a will, there is a way. If you believe, you can make it happen. And you've certainly made it happen. Young mom getting into real estate. Now you have a whole house family, big family.
I do.
And so
yes.
you found the whole point is you found a way. So I want to unpack that today with you. So tell me about your journey. How did it happen?
So I had been working for the University of Pennsylvania, working in their city planning department. And I got pregnant with my oldest, who is now 20 years old. And I had been working full time. And when I got pregnant with him, they allowed me, or after I gave birth to him, they allowed me to go down and job share. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter, who's now 18, I made a decision that I didn't want to work full-time hours, standard hours any longer. So even though they'd allowed me to job share and I was really only working 2.5 days a week, I wanted to have a little bit more flexibility in my schedule. So I went back and I got my real estate license. And about 4 months before I gave birth to her, I joined a brokerage. And at the time they said to me, how much are you looking to make? And I said, I don't know, about $30,000 a year. And I said, to me, it's about putting in the time, because I felt at the time, nobody was ever going to ask me how many deals I had done. They were only going to ask me how long I had been in real estate. So I felt that I could do this as a very part-time basis for a long time. And then in 10 years after I was done having my children, I could then go into it in a more determined way. Well, we make plans and God laughs. So after I gave birth to I was pregnant with my second, had my second, got pregnant with my third, and about 6 weeks after I gave birth to my third, my husband at the time lost his job and was out of work for 2 years. And during that time, even though everyone advised me to go get a full-time job, instead I said, I can really focus on real estate. I think I can do well with this. I really enjoyed it. So I really dug in deep. I got pregnant with my fourth while my husband was still unemployed. And I started really selling real estate and really just building my business. So I gave birth to my fourth. My then husband started working 6 weeks after I gave birth to my fourth child. And at that point, even when he went back to work and he went back to a great job, I was at that point making more money than he was in his full-time job. So I just kept digging in and had, 4 very small children. My oldest was 6 years old when I gave birth to my fourth. And through raising my children, I met a lot of my clients. That's how I did a lot of my lead generation. My friends became my clients. My clients became my friends. A few years later, I divorced. I'm now remarried, and I also have what I call bonus daughters. So there's 7 of them. 3 of them we have launched into the world. We still have 4 of them at home, and my journey continues. And it's been a great career for me. It's really been a great business for me because I can get my kids to school. I can be here when they get home from school, and I can have a really wonderful, fulfilling career.
Isn't that what everybody wants? A really wonderful, fulfilling career in life. Along the way, you've had, I'm sure, a lot of challenges that have come through. What do you think, what is one of the biggest challenges that you had to go through during the time to develop into the business person and human that you are today?
I think a lot of it's mindset. I think a lot of it is just the inner voice telling me that I can do it, and that whatever it is that I feel is challenging me at the moment is smaller than other things that I've already overcome. So it's a constant reinforcement that what's ahead of me is going to be better than maybe whatever challenge I'm stuck in at this moment. So, and just staying grounded.
That mental toughness.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's definitely, I have a lot of affirmations on all of the mirrors throughout my home.
Share, please, share.
Well, I mean, they range, they're on every mirror in my home. I put them up initially for my children, and they're, My mommy is proud of me no matter what. I love my siblings even when it does not seem that way. I am open to adventure. The most recent one that was added, my kids added to it, was I do epic shit. So,
Oh,
it really broad range. It's I am better than no one and no one is better than me. It's really what I call my life lessons that I want my children to always have in the back of their head, so that when they hit their challenging times, they don't even necessarily realize what it is that they're doing or that they're saying. They just become part of their life and their own inner voice.
creating
Yeah.
resiliency. I think
Yeah.
that's something that is lacking today, Beth. People being
I would
resilient.
I've said that I'm always either up or I'm getting up. I don't allow myself to stay down. And through whatever happens, that's always been, whenever something really happens that pushes me down, like, okay, I'm getting up again. I'm getting up again. And I just keep reminding myself of that if I had an opportunity to switch my problems with anybody else's, that I wouldn't. I take my own problems back again.
I agree with that. I think that life happens for us, not to us. And the
Agreed.
things that happen that feel like they were like a complete disaster, actually, if you grow through them, they make you a better person.
Yeah, that some of that is just faith, right? That this too shall, we've all heard it, right? Our parents always said, this too shall pass, you know, everything happens for a reason. All of those things that, as I was younger, I really felt. I remember a time when a good friend of mine died, and somebody says to me, everything happens for a reason. And I said, well, they only say that when bad things happen. And now at 48, I can look back and I can say, all of these steps really led me to where I am. It's the song "God Bless the Broken Road."
Mm,
So it's hard to see that maybe sometimes when you're going through it and when you're pushing
yeah.
through these things. Yet in
Yes.
hindsight, you realize that that really is what guides you.
You you can connect the dots forward only backwards.
Right. Absolutely.
And then you find, wow, if I didn't do that thing, I wouldn't have been able to do this thing. And that's why that thing happened. And also your experiences help you to help others to walk through.
Yeah, and I thought that, when I a lot of young agents and talk with a lot of agents regarding real estate, and I always say we all have a skill set. And so my skill set allows me to maneuver a lot of different problems, right? Because this is a profession with bumps in the road for sure. And every deal has some sort of bump in the road. And it's just a matter of using your skill set to maneuver through whatever that challenge is, whether it's getting it under contract to begin with, or the day of closing, finding water in the basement. Whatever the challenge is, that we have to just allow our own personal skills to come through to maneuver those challenges.
Be the solution.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's all about being the solution. That's why the podcast is called Be the
It's a
Solution,
great
because
name.
yeah,
Right.
we provide solutions to the challenges that our clients have. And we, look at it and say we are the solution for ourselves and for our own life. So, I always say if you aren't where you want to be in life, pick up that shining object called the mirror and look straight into it,
Right.
because we determine our own destiny in our own life
You're
by the
not a
choices
tree.
we make or
Move.
not.
Like I saw a meme once that said, you're not, if you don't like where you are, you're not a tree. Move.
Right? We do have the control. We have to believe that we have the control to create our own destiny. I read a really good book lately, Beth, a few weeks ago. It's called The Fifth Agreement. Have you heard of this book?
I haven't.
Have you heard of the Four Agreements?
Yes, that I read it, but I've heard of that book.
Oh, it's an excellent book. Don Miguel Ruiz and his son wrote this second book called The Fifth Agreement. And it talks about like who we think we are as humans, like how we envision ourselves. And it's really interesting because it said, you're walking down the hall, you go into this room, and it's a movie theater, and you see like your life up there, and you're looking at it, and then you see yourself sitting in the movie, and you're like, oh, you're watching the movie. Then you're like, oh, let me go check down the hall. So then you go into another theater, and say, like, it's your mom or your mom, and she's sitting there watching her movie, and you're watching her movie. You're like, that's not her. I don't even, she's acting. That's not who she is. And then you're in the movie and you're like, that's not me. That's who she thinks I am. That doesn't even make any sense. And then your husband's in the movie, and that's even worse because she really has her own opinion of him. Anyway, it's really interesting because people really don't know you. They really don't, even though they think they do. And the things that are here between our brain that we make up, it's a virtual reality we live in because we create it all.
Yeah, you deserve
Everything
what
that
you
we
create in
have,
your imagination, right?
we've created it. So it's like, what is it that you want? I believe in the law of assumption. Command it to happen.
Yeah, manifesting what you want it to happen. Yeah, putting it out there and opening yourself up to the power of the universe. One of the things that I tell myself a lot when things go right is I say the universe conspires to give me everything I need. And
That's
I
right.
really
Conspires in
believe
your
that.
favor.
Yeah.
Conspires in your favor. Just believe. You have to believe in it, though. If you don't believe in it, kind of hard to conspire in your favor.
Yeah, I'll tell you that my child, my oldest daughter, her name in Hebrew is Amuna, which translates to faith. And she was born during a time that I didn't have a lot of faith, that I was really struggling with a lot of things in life. And so I gave her that name because I felt like I needed to embrace that a little bit more. And I have found that in the years since she was born, I have myself leaned more into my faith and more into just trusting in the world around me that everything's going to turn out okay. And when it's not looking like it's going to turn out okay, it is my responsibility to jump in and to do what I am able to do to make it okay. And so it has really led me in the causes that I've supported and in the fights that I've taken on, because I believe I have an active part in creating that universe and that world that I want. And that just leaning into that, knowing that even though in the short term it may seem like the wrong step, in the long term, I know that it's all going to circle around and end up exactly where I want it to be.
Yeah, so true. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the yellow ribbon.
Oh my, yes, for the 101 hostages being held in Gaza. Yes, I'm a very proud and active Jew. I call myself an unapologetic Zionist. I have a daughter who is currently living in Israel. I myself am making my third visit to Israel at the end of this month. So yeah, I want to bring them home. I want to bring them home, and I'm going to keep shouting it from the rooftops. If you've seen any of my social media, I've been very vocal on the need for people to speak out, for Jews, non-Jews, Americans, non-Americans. There's not just Israelis. Yeah, it's not just Israelis and Jews being held hostage currently.
No, I know, and I am supportive of this endeavor, and I am I'm extremely moved by your with it and your outreach.
Yeah, and that's one of those where you have to have faith too, because my reviews have definitely been challenged because of it. I've had a lot of anti-Semitic comments in my Google reviews for my business from people who I've never met, who don't know who I am, who just have seen my social media or have seen me at different events or speaking at different things. And so they come to my Google reviews and leave me not nice things, and Google is not always so quick to remove those.
You can get those removed, though. You know how to do that?
Some of them. So we report them on a regular basis. When they just, when they say things that are incredibly inflammatory, Google is very quick to respond. Yet when they're a bit more subdued, Google is not as quick to respond. And that is a price I am willing to pay. When I was at the CNN town hall and I was on international TV wearing my ribbon, and it was written about in the Times of Israel and the Jerusalem Post that a woman asked a question about anti-Semitism wearing a yellow ribbon. I really felt that, and I got a whole bunch of reviews that night, but I really felt that if one hostage family saw my yellow ribbon or read about a woman, a stranger across the world wearing a yellow ribbon, and it gave them any comfort at all that a stranger was thinking about their loved ones, that it was worth all of it.
Wow. Remarkable.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable.
We do what we all have a role to play. So
we do all have a role to play, and being a voice for others. And, I say when things aren't going right in your life, help as many people as you can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's also the gratitude, isn't it? Right?
Yes.
That when we give back, it makes everything that we're dealing with just seem a little bit more manageable. I remember when COVID first hit, and we were literally, my husband and I were literally standing on a corner just distributing lunches to people who didn't have salaries at that moment, or didn't have food in the house, or were afraid to go to grocery stores or whatever. And it was such an easy, simple thing, and it felt so good.
Wow.
And I think that's anytime whenever I find myself in a low, the quickest way to get myself out of it and to be getting up, right, is to give back, is to women's shelter that I volunteer at. So, I'll go there, things like
Where's
that,
that
because
at, Beth?
that's in the city. I don't distribute the address for safety purposes, but I do.
Oh,
It's in the city down in the Kensington area.
do they need more
So they
support?
always, yeah, I can send it to you offline. We always need more support, right?
I
Then
have
all of
somebody I would like, I think would help, be able to help them and help themselves by helping them.
Yeah, it's just, when you give back, it just gives you so much more. There's a Jewish principle that when you give tzedakah, or you give charity, that whatever you
Mhm.
give, you get back double. And I have found that to be true throughout my lifetime. That the more
Oh,
that I give, the more my business grows, the more that my personal life flourishes, and that it is that you're doing it for the right purposes, yet it always comes back in a significant way.
yeah. God is good. Life is good.
Yeah, yeah, life
Giving,
is good.
give, giving back. So tell me how was your experience on CNN, the town hall? Like what you learned from it?
What I learned from it. I learned that politics are very polarizing. I
Oh,
Yeah, I went to American University for college, so I went to school in Washington, D.C., so I was involved in politics from a young age. I found that, unfortunately, sometimes people close off those who they don't agree with, and that's not the way to actually be the solution. That when we open ourselves up to hearing the other side, that a lot of times we learn and we find solutions from hearing how other people are feeling about the same issues. I've seen a lot of posts of people saying, if you voted this way, unfriend me. I don't believe in that myself. I think that you create an echo chamber, and it doesn't allow you to really hear what else is going on and to hear the fears. I don't believe that those who voted for Trump voted that way because they hate anyone or because they want to take away any rights. I believe they voted that way because that was what was the best vote for them. And we live in an amazing country that allows us all to have our vote. We live in an amazing country that allows us to have multiple candidates, and that this year more people sided one way than the other. And whether I myself am happy or sad with the results, I'm really happy that at the end it was definitive, because I think the last 4 years of arguing as to whether or not the last election was or wasn't really did a lot of damage for us.
yeah, I agree. I also agree with people have the right to their own opinion and need to do
Absolutely.
what's best for them. I mean,
Absolutely.
people are saying things on my post and they're like, I don't understand what's wrong with people. Like, how did we get here? How did we get to a place of, if you didn't vote like me, I hate you. Like, it's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Individual thought is a really powerful thing. And
Yes. And I'm going to
how
continue to
lucky are we
advocate.
to live how lucky are we to live in a country where we all get to vote?
Indeed. I'm grateful. I always say that about the great USA. We have our own issues here, but where else can you go? You can be in real estate, you could be in any business, you can start a business, and be an entrepreneur. I believe in capitalism. I believe in going out there and getting it. I believe in, you work your way up, and if you continue to work and do the work and surround yourself with good people, get in the right rooms, don't believe the story that you've been conditioned with your whole
Yeah.
life,
And
and
step up and get involved.
that's what that book's about too. You can change your story, like the
Yeah.
story that you were conditioned with that your parents told you, if you want. You can change. You don't have to be the person that you were yesterday today. You
Yeah,
can decide,
absolutely.
oh, I'm not doing that anymore, or I'm going to start to do this. And
Absolutely.
what does this all have to do with real estate? Nothing and everything.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Nothing and
I have
everything.
often called real estate my fifth child, my business, my fifth baby. I grew it from nothing into something, and now it's in some ways flourishing on its own, and in some ways still needs a lot of my hand in it. It's very much like my 20-year-old son, right? He's living independently, and a lot of things happen without me involved, and he
A
still
lot of
needs
things happen without you being involved.
he still calls me 6 times a day, right? He still needs my attention. He still needs me to funnel my energy into it. And real estate very much is the exact same thing as our children. Our businesses become what we give them. And you can't just watch your children grow up. You have to raise them. And that's the same way with real estate. You can't just stand back and say, okay, I'm open, bring me business. You have to be actively working for your business.
100%. So we'll switch gears and talk about something else that's been, you know, on the radar this year in the NAR settlement.
Yeah.
And
I
what are your
have found that, first of all, we're in Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania was already a buyer's agency state. So we
Yes.
already, if we were doing real estate the right way, we were already getting buyer's agency contracts signed. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's start there.
For
Right?
us,
Yeah.
we've been doing that for 18 of the last 20 years. So,
Right. So, and now we just have to change how we explain things a little bit. I have not found it to be a bad thing necessarily for my business. And I haven't necessarily found it to be a good thing for my business. It just changes the way that we discuss and disclose commissions. Yet on my day-to-day of how I practice real estate has not changed dramatically. I think there was a lot of the sky is falling and a lot of fear. And I think that you can't, I took a real estate mindset class many, many years ago. And one of the things they said, fear or faith, you choose. And I think that really has been something that I've repeated to myself a lot. And so there was a lot around that NAR settlement, a lot of fear of people not knowing they were going to get paid. And we are all in this at the end of the day, as much as we all love helping people, we're all in this to support our families and to, it's our business. So I think that when you step back though, it's not a bad thing. It's just a different thing. And we just had to adjust and pivot, as we have many, many in this business, right? We go back to when COVID started and we weren't able to practice real estate. We started doing things electronically, right? We started doing a lot of virtual showings, a lot more video, and that's just continued. And we still do a lot of that. I sell to a lot of homes to people who don't live in Philadelphia. They live abroad or they live out of state, and we do it all by video now. And we didn't do that pre-COVID, and now we do. That it's been a great thing that we've built on, that we've maintained. So I don't know that any lawsuit or settlement or any shift in the market, all of that, we how we respond to that. Interest rates now are not what they were in 2021, and yet we still sell homes. We still have buyers who need to buy homes. We still have sellers who need to move across the country or need a larger home or need to downsize. Or estates of people who've passed, and we need to help guide them through that process. We just have to shift and pivot, yet it doesn't mean that our world stops. It just changes.
yeah. Well, I think that it was a lot of commotion for nothing.
Agreed.
So I kind of ignored the whole thing as much as I possibly could when it wasn't being emailed to me on Facebook or
Yeah, I sat through 3 different classes, and when all 3 classes were giving different advice and different ways to deal with it, I said, okay, nobody knows. There's no solution. There's no great solution, like one solution here. I'm going to figure how this works for me. And that's what I did, is I figured out what the solution was for myself and for my team and my agents on my team. And we've very well since August.
It's very busy right now. We're very busy.
Yeah, and rates just dropped.
I think also the election's over, so.
Yeah, right. Every 4 years, there's a slowdown.
Every 4 years.
Every 4 years it happens. And I was saying that to people, and literally this past weekend after the election, I had a listing that hadn't had an appointment in 3 weeks, all of a sudden had 8 appointments, because people weren't distracted. They weren't as nervous. And even though they may not have been happy with the results, it was behind them. It was no longer sitting there, paralyzing them. And people came out again. This past weekend, we had an open house that had almost 40 people at it. You know, the real estate market was just dormant and waiting, and now everyone's back.
What do you think is some of the biggest challenges we as people in the real estate profession are today, outside of like the NAR? But what do you think people struggle with?
I think a lot of it is that if you're not in this world, you just don't understand how it works. So as realtors, you know, something that I learned early on, because I did have young children, is setting boundaries around my time and around my schedule. And I had to start really time blocking my children the same way I time block appointments or things that I need to get done. So I think that's a big challenge, is people call it the balance, the work balance. I've always called it the life work juggle, because it's a more accurate, right? Like you're throwing up a whole lot of balls, and your family, your integrity are made of glass, whereas work is sometimes made of rubber. And so you have to make sure that you're maintaining your family and your integrity and not letting those balls drop, whereas your work ball, if it drops, it will bounce back up, and that's okay. And so I think that juggle is for some people to get through if you aren't great at multitasking, or if you can't keep track of multiple things at the same time. So I think that's the biggest struggle for realtors, is that people don't understand how hectic and how crazy and how much work we're doing behind the scenes. How we could be on the phones for hours in order to find you. And then I call you and say, I found the house. And so they see the house and they think, oh, this is the house. They don't realize that it took me probably 400 hours of calls until I found the house that wasn't on the market yet that I could present to my buyers. You know, it's digging. And our buyers, and on us for maybe not sharing that story. Yet people don't realize really what we're doing every day, and sometimes how stressful that is.
I don't think they realize, and I don't think our industry helps by saying, I sold the house in 3 days.
Correct. Right.
About the 20 years that I put into it, 60 hours a week, literally, still for 20 years.
Yep. To learn how to market that property and how to price that property so that it does sell that quickly for that much over. Yep.
Right. And I hate those posts, by the way, too. I hate it. I hate all the posts that are about, you know, it makes us, if you're not ready to contract or transact, whatever, you don't really care. So that's 96% of people don't care. That's why I like to just talk about my life, and, you know, here I am going to the gym again.
Yep.
Here I am.
I don't post about going to the gym. I'm not posting about going to the gym.
Whatever. That happens to be my thing, but you know, whatever it is, like inspiration, aspiration, people that it can be done, being in contribution, both to, you know, the industry and just to human in general.
Yeah, someone once shared with me that everyone needs to know Beth Samberg sells real estate. No one should hate to know that Beth Samberg sells real estate. And that's really stuck with me, because I see a lot, you know, I'm sure you too, on social media, we have a lot of colleagues who we're friends with on social media, and we see their posts. And the ones that are new listing, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, here's the price, new listing, under contract, like, tell me who you are. I am not on social media to necessarily promote my product. That is, I have a page which does that. I have a marketing person on my team whose job it is to do that. Yet I am, for a lot of my clients, really at the end of the day, I am the product. What they are, you know, how many times have we shown someone sometimes up to 40 homes and they haven't bought anything, yet they keep coming back to me. I am the product. The house, when we find the right home, will sell itself. We will walk in and we will all know this is it. And if they listen to me, most of the time we end up getting that house, right? That I am the product. I am what they're buying and selling. And so part of my role is to allow myself to show people exactly who I am. And I'll post controversial things. I'll allow controversial topics on my social media. I do not run from it because this is who I am. And it's not I'm being vulnerable. I see a lot of posts where it's like vulnerability alert. And I'm like, well, once you tell us that you're being vulnerable, you're no longer vulnerable. This is just who I am. And I'm not doing it with any sort of preconceived expectation of the results. It's just, this is what I'm feeling right now. This is what I'm doing right now. Here are my children who make me so incredibly proud, who I have raised from nothing, right? You know, literally they are my pride and joy. They are my everything. And at the end of the day, I have said, I don't want to be remembered as a great realtor. I am a great realtor. And that's not what I want to be remembered for. I want to be remembered for these beautiful children that I have raised. I want to be remembered for my advocacy work and my volunteer work, and that I helped others and that I cared. And at the end of the day, that's how I go to sleep at night, is knowing that my dignity and my integrity are intact, and that I survived another day being just who I'm supposed to be.
So good. Authenticity. We need more of Beth Samberg.
Yeah. You know, I've said to a lot of my friends that I believe that a lot of this election also came down to authenticity, that I felt, love him or hate him, Trump is who he is. You knew exactly who he was, right? You know, the good and the bad. You know, you knew who he was. And I felt like Vice President Harris didn't necessarily show us that the same way. And I think people responded to that, is that people really felt confused. And that's life, that when we show people who we are, there will be some who do not like me and who don't want to work with me. And that's okay. Not
Right.
every agent is right for every client.
No, so it's like when you're
But those who like me are attracted to me, right? We attract what we are, not what we want.
That's right. When you're authentic, you find your tribe organically,
Mm-hmm.
and those people come.
Yeah. And I've been blessed with amazing people around me. I have the greatest friends. I have a spouse, you know, and I've created that by allowing them to see a deeper side of me.
So good. I think that, you know, putting yourself out there, and good, bad, indifferent, it's what it's all about.
Oh yeah. When I house and my shoes don't match and I don't realize it until I'm standing in a house showing it, that goes on Facebook because that's life, right? That's life, you know. And I also very much acknowledge that I am very blessed that I grew up in a home with two parents who loved me and continue. Who I'm very blessed. Both of my parents are still alive and still with us and still in my life. And that's a privilege as well. I had a really nice foundation to start with, and everything for me started knowing I was supported, and not everybody has that. And so now I look for opportunities to work with people who don't necessarily have that and to give back. And I think that if we all saw it as a cycle and we all took some of what we had and gave it to others, we'd all be in a better place. You know, I remember once somebody talked about a ladder, and that, you know, when people are below you on the rung, that when they go up, you also go up. Don't be afraid of them passing you necessarily. And sometimes they do, and that's great for them, you know, right? But that what we all each other up. It's not just, we don't have to be going this way. We can all be better.
We can all be better. We all lift each other up. It's true.
Yeah. And I think that your podcast is a perfect example of this, right? You're talking to your colleagues who some view our business as very competitive and adversarial. And I've always felt that if I have a buyer and you have a seller, well, we have the same goal. It's to get them to closing. And that the agent on the other side of that deal needs to be my best friend through that transaction, because the goal is the same. And so even though we might have different ways of going about it or different things that need to happen, at the end of the day, the goal is the same. So let's get there together. And that's hard for some agents because they come in just really angry, and it's not necessary.
Collaboration over competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's plenty of business for everybody.
Absolutely. There is absolutely.
I don't even people ask me about, what's your competition do? Blah, blah, blah. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't pay any attention.
I am my own competition.
I that's it. Person in the mirror I'm trying to compete against every day. How can I be better? How can I show up better? I can be a better wife, a better leader, better sister, a better daughter. That's it. How can I be a better human?
Yep. Right.
That's
Somebody
what
I've had people, who's your biggest competition? And I'm like, myself, because I don't view my colleagues as my competition.
100%. We're on the same page. It's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff, Beth. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Number one, what's your guilty pleasure?
Probably a joint every now and then. That is, sorry, Mom. Yes, that is probably that is my weakness. Yes.
Okay, cool. I knew you were going to say that. I had a
That is,
feeling you were going to say that. Anyway,
I don't run controversial topics.
I know.
So-
I know. I think it's great. I think it's great. Put it all out there. Number two. Now, you cannot answer your husband or your children to this question. I have to
Okay.
preface that because people answer that way. For you personally, Beth, what are you most excited about for your future?
What am I most excited about for my future? I think just watching what happens all around me, because I know it's going to be amazing. So I am actually I am headed myself to Israel at the end of this month. I'm looking to purchase a property while I'm there, with the intention of us, my husband and I, eventually snowbirding in Israel. So that's probably the most exciting thing on my horizon right now, is purchasing abroad.
I love it. We're going to purchase in Italy.
Amazing.
That's my jam. When I'm there, I go there. I'm home.
It's home. Something just
It's
feels like
home.
home. Yeah.
Home to me.
Jews, we have a word called neshama, which refers to our soul. And I say that in the last, 13 months, right? 13 months, when I go to Israel, it's been healing my neshama, because my soul was really torn on October 7th. And every time I go back, I can feel it start to heal. It just feels like home.
So good. This has been amazing with you today. Thank you,
You.
Beth.
Same.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amazing guest, amazing human. Keep being the
Thank you for
solution.
having me. Thank you.